I just finished The Spellshop by Sarah Beth Durst, and it is such a cute little cozy fantasy. I'm really glad I picked it up. It's not perfect, and I will admit I was partly tempted by how beautiful it is. I was at a folk music concert and the lady sitting in front of me had a copy of this sitting next to her, so I looked it up, which my husband totally laughed at me for. And then I saw that Elliot Brooks has it as one of her favorite new cozy fantasies, so I was like, gotta try it. It definitely fits more into the cozy fantasy genre than the romantasy or romantic fantasy. There's a little bit of a romantic subplot, but it's not the main point of the story. And although cozy fantasy is not necessarily plot heavy or plot driven, I will start there. The main character's name is Keela. She is a librarian. Her dream job, she is one of those people who just loves books. She loves books more than people. She often hides from people in the library, which is super relatable. And her best friend slash assistant slash partner is Kaz, the animated spider plant, who also loves books just as much as Keela. And the type of library that Keela works in is the magical spellbook library. And in the world she lives in and the time that she lives in, only government-approved sorcerers get to check out those books, and only government-approved sorcerers get to perform any kind of magic. And lately, especially the last few years, the government has been consolidating its magical power, kind of pulling in all of its magical help that it used to offer to the outer islands outside of the capital city of Elysium, I think? Elysium. And there's a revolution, which is not a huge part of the plot, but it's at least the inciting incident to Keela and Kaz, and it comes in a little bit later because the people leading the revolution come into the city and are burning things, including the library. Keela and Kaz have been aware of this revolution, and just in case, they've been putting some of their favorite books into crates, and so at the very beginning of the story, the library is on fire, and they need to flee to save their lives, but also to save the books. They have to save the books. But Keela, though she's a librarian, is not a sorcerer. So she is not technically supposed to take those books out of the library, but you know, she's saving them. And once out of the library with the books, she doesn't really have a good place to go. So she goes back to her childhood home, one of the outer islands named Caltree, or Caltray, however you'd like to pronounce it. So Keela and Kaz make it to the island. They find Keela's childhood home where she grew up. It's been abandoned, no one lives there. It has technically passed to her, and her plan is just to kind of hide away here. Just survive, protect the books. Maybe someday when it's safe to go back to Elysium, she'll go back and return the books, but for right now, she just has to survive. She has no plans on integrating into the social life of Caltree. She has no plan on making friends. She'd rather not even talk to anyone if she can help it. But if you have read any cozy fantasy at all, or even just read books, you probably know that that plan is not going to be what happens. She does have a very handsome neighbor who insists on checking on her to make sure she's okay. She meets some very kind islanders who also insist on being friendly and drawing her in and trying to make her feel at home. The fact that she was born on Caltree means that she is an islander. She's one of theirs, and most of them just want to accept her, which is not really what she wants. So a lot of this book is just Keela trying to navigate this new life, new people, but she is noticing that the island is not the same as it was when she was a child. She has lots of memories, and what she sees is that the island isn't doing so well. The government in Elysium withdrawing the sorcerers and withdrawing magical help means that they are kind of having hard times. There's magical storms. A lot of the crops aren't growing. People aren't necessarily starving, but they are not thriving anymore. And you know what she just happens to have hidden in her cottage is a lot of magical knowledge. And as a librarian, she believes that knowledge in books should be shared with all. It shouldn't be hoarded by the powerful. But in any way that she shares that knowledge or tries to use it to help these people on this island is illegal. So she kind of sees what she thinks the island might need. What is a way that she can sneakily help them? One of the things she decides to do, I don't know how far I can go and keep this spoiler free because cozy fantasy isn't plot heavy, but I don't want to say everything. She notices a need that the island has, multiple needs actually, and she tries to fulfill them the best she can without getting caught. This is the type of book that will make you feel like you need some kind of snack or drink as you read it. The author said that as she was writing this, in every chapter, she wanted to make sure that something in the chapter made her smile. I found myself smiling a lot, and she wanted it to just feel happy, like sunshine in a book. I definitely think she succeeded with that. I'll probably go more into this when I make a spoiler video. The reason Keela left and grew up in the city was because her parents wanted to give her a better life, more opportunities. They left when she was a child, and now that she's back and in the cottage where she grew up, she's encountering all these memories. Most of them happy. It makes her miss her parents who are no longer alive, and she had never meant to make a home here, but everything about it is so homey. It's like drawing her in. She's catching feelings for the island and for the people. The book itself is also beautiful. I always take the dust jacket off when I read, so it stays nice. But even so, having these purple edges while it's talking about making raspberry jam just felt so delightful, like I was holding a berry-stained book in my hand. I did wish that the winged cats had a bit larger of a role. It's part of the cover art, and they're mentioned when she's walking through the village. She sees the winged cats, but they're never really part of things. I wish they had been. My main complaint, I knew what I was getting into. I knew this was a cozy fantasy and not to think too much about plot or action or any of that kind of thing, but it did go on for too long. I felt like it could have and maybe should have wrapped up like 100 pages before the end, because everything that the book is about Keela and her relationships with the islanders, that's what I was invested in. And then towards the end, there's this new character thrown in, and then a new situation for that character, and then there's this new problem for them to have to solve, and I kind of felt like that was all unnecessary. Almost like the author needed a couple of certain plot points to be hit and didn't really know how to hit them, so she just added in this extra stuff, which added in an extra 100 pages. I don't know if that's the case, that's just kind of how it felt. Having that extra stuff at the end made it feel like this one could have wrapped up as a shorter book and then had a sequel bringing in a new character and that new stuff, and we could have still been with the characters we fall in love with in the Spellshop. But it was fine. It didn't feel like it dragged on and on. It just felt like, you know, is this really necessary at the end here? The magic style is very much, you read a spell that has ingredients, you speak the first language, so combining the ingredients with the correct language. Anybody who does it right could perform magic. There's not like special magical ability inherent in some people, which means that villagers who have a spell could cast the spell if they do it correctly. The world building was very nice. Everything felt really magical. There's very few just plain old blah humans. A lot of the people have antlers or fur or scales, or the main character has blue skin and blue hair and her freckles are magenta. And the island of Caltree has a lot of magic just inherent to it, including plenty of other magical creatures. I didn't look up ahead of time who did the cover art, but I will find them and link them in the description before this video comes out because it is a beautifully done piece of art. So overall, very well done story, worth your time, worth the read. Perfect cozy summer read, or spring or fall or winter if you want a little bit of sunshine to break up your cold months, but very worth adding to your to be read pile. Thank you to my patrons and to everyone who watches these videos. I appreciate you, and I hope this review inspired you to give this book a try. Happy reading. Bye.